Today on Locked On Canadiens, it's our mailbag, and the haters in the comments will rejoice. We get to tell all of you how we were wrong.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1350 of the Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as that Maybe It's Ian. You may have seen my work at rabbithabs.com back in the day, as well as the Build podcast, which I think was just the precursor to me being on this show. And you, my co-host, as always, is the wonderful Laura Saba, also known as the Actor Stick. You may recognize Laura from her work at Habs Eyes on the Prize, and as a producer of Hockey Primetime back in the day. Laura, we're at the end of another week, and I think programming note, this is sort of it's not the end of the season for us, but it is the end of our 5 shows a week for now. So it does sort of feel like we're about to sort of hit summer vacation, doesn't it?
It is, but listeners, just so you know, if you're new, in the off season, we go down to 3 shows a week. So we will still be posting all throughout the summer. You will still get new episodes. It'll just be 3 episodes a week, normally Monday, Wednesday, Friday. However, there's going to be a couple of them that we're going to have to move around due to vacations and stuff. But we will be posting 3 shows a week, and we'll let you know beforehand if the show's going to come on another day.
Yep. Exactly. And if Kent Hughes decides to, take us out of vacation and do something wild, we will be here with an episode to tell you about that wild thing that man did. But today it's all about our listeners. Once again, it is our mailbag. You guys came through as you always do. We've got a ton of questions to get through. So you know what? Let's just jump right into it, Laura. Let's start with our first question here from Danny Joe 22 on Bluesky. Probably too late. It's not too late. But what did you get most wrong about last season? For me, it was Hudson running out of steam in an 82-game season. I think a lot of people have that thought, Danny, so don't kick yourself for that one. I think a lot of people believe that there's no way this kid can keep it up for the entire length of the season, and it's funny that he just got better as it went. Like, he sort of defied reason throughout the year, so do not kick yourself for that one. I think we all kind of believed that to a certain extent. Laura, I think I'll start with this one. I'll eat some crow. One of the things that I think we got wrong as a show was we were asked in a mailbag before the season if we wanted a top 10 pick or the playoffs. And we both chose the pick because we thought that that's the stage the Canadiens were at in their rebuild. And we were wrong. We were wrong that was our assessment of this team. But also, in getting to the playoffs, realized we were wrong at least I will say I was wrong in not wanting the playoffs more than that pick. Is that a fair assumption for you as well?
Absolutely. And it's the same thing for me, because I wholeheartedly agreed with you on that. I said that the pick was better than the experience, right? I said, no matter what, like, you want to, if it looks like you're not going to do well, you want to tank, because what's the point of one 4 or 5 game playoff series that you play? And that's exactly what we got. We got a 5-game playoff series, and I would not trade that at all for another pick, because we don't know where that would have landed.
It's true. And I mean, it's funny how it worked out, right? We got playoffs and no pick, and we thought we wanted pick and no playoffs. So yeah, it's very interesting how that worked out. I think, looking back on it, the idea that there was nothing to be gained from a short playoff stint, I think was wrong, just in the sense that I was looking at it hypothetically as like, oh, they're just going to get their teeth kicked in. That series, the core parts of that team performed well. They were great. Yeah. And I think that win on home ice, I think that's going to fuel them more than anything to getting back to that moment, to getting back into a situation where they can have that crowd that loud again. I think that's more than anything. I think that's the most valuable thing for that core playing in the playoffs. And also the first 10 minutes or so of game 1, where I think the Washington Capitals did the Montreal Canadiens a tremendous favor by not letting up in those first 10 minutes and giving them a taste of what the playoffs can be. Because I think that resonated with them tremendously throughout the rest of that series. And afterwards, talking about it, they very much looked like they didn't see that coming.
Yeah. And that was the thing, because we talked about it when they first actually made the playoffs, that the entire 2 weeks or however long it was, even if it was longer, we should look at this. We should look at the postseason as playoff school for the Canadians, right? And they got really schooled in in those first 10 minutes in that first period, right? But the thing is, they also learned the value of patience, of withstanding something like that, exhausting your opponent by letting them do that to you, and then turning around. And I also think the run to the playoffs had a lot of lessons in it as well, right? Because they were doing so well, it seemed very well within reach. And then when it came time to the moment to actually clinch it, that's when they had all those issues, right? Like they kept falling short. They kept, the moment was too big for them. And Marty even talked about that, right? They lived all kinds of experiences in the last week alone, when they finally did clinch. Like the words he said, I can't even remember what it was, but he was like, they lived all manner of feelings or all manner of experiences.
Yeah.
That, like, what they lived through this week is going to, is going to teach them a lot for the future. And so, I think that the listeners were right and we were wrong, and I'm perfectly happy to admit that. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna be the first person to say that I messed something up.
Yes.
That one, well, I'm gonna wear that one for a while. That one
Yeah.
we definitely goofed on. Appreciate the opportunity to allow us to sort of clean the slate here, and so
Yeah.
we can start next season fresh, and we can come back in September and give you an even dumber take on how we think this season will go. So thank you for that.
Yes.
This one comes from our friend Denny. Some teams have individual goal songs for their players. What are some songs you think would be perfect for certain Habs players? Denny gives us the GoldenEye N64 pause music for Nick Suzuki, an incredible pick. I love that a lot.
Amazing.
Break stuff for Arbor Xhekaj, correct. There's no arguing with that one at all. And Big Pimpin' for Cole Caulfield. So that's also fantastic. All of those are fantastic. Do you have any that pop off off the top of your head here?
Honestly, I want like a country song, maybe a whimsical country song, like maybe like a Post Malone type thing. For Samuel Montembeault, there's just something about him that kind of screams that, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And then I wanted something like really like old school heavy metal for Jakub Dobson, right? He doesn't score goals, but I feel like maybe goalies get entrance music, or maybe they make like a Carey Price like save and then they get music. I want the goalies to have music.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, remember when Price used to make a save and they played the Superman
Yeah.
theme? That's
Yeah.
do that.
Yes.
That's rad.
Exactly. So I had those two. And then I wanted something for Lane, but he's just so painfully hockey that I couldn't think of anything.
Well, they play when he scores at the Bell Center. It didn't happen a lot this year, but they play Life in the Fast Lane afterwards. Like the stoppage afterwards, they play Life in the Fast Lane in the building, which I think is very funny. I'll just in service of the bits that we've created on this show, do you believe in magic for Mike Matheson? I think that's the only thing that I can add to this conversation, because Denny already did a great job with this. You provided some stellar answers. I need to play in my own space, and that is as Mike Matheson knower and respecter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question for our first segment here. Comes to us from Xhekaj Face Punch on YouTube. If you had to choose one forward to graduate from Laval this season and become a full-time NHLer before all others, who would it be?
This is going to be surprising, because I think everyone would think I'm going to say Owen Beck, because that has been, the tune that I've been singing for a while now. And I do think it will happen. But if I had to choose one, I would say Oliver Kapanen. And the reason that I say that is because I think the Canadians need to know what they have in this guy as soon as possible. Because he could be a trade chip. I think that they're much more married to Beck than they are to Kapanen. So that would be the forward that I choose to graduate. But if our hearts could make this decision, then it would be Sean Farrell, because he's a little guy.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Farrell is a great pick. Like the challenge with Farrell and the challenge with Beck to me is I just don't know where I put him. Like Farrell, you need to put in a top 6 role. Well, there might not be one of those spots open for him. Beck, you want to play down the middle, but they already have a lot of right shot centermen. He doesn't serve. He's not adding to anything in Montreal. You might as well keep him in Laval and let him, step his game up there. The one that I think I would throw into this conversation, and I feel like this player is not going to play in Montreal a significant amount this season, and it's Florian Xhekaj. I just think he does enough to warrant a call up at some point. I don't think he's going to have it in him to start in Montreal and stay there the whole season. Could be wrong in that regard. But if they can turn him into a penalty killer, if they can turn him into a guy who adds value other than, his energy line presence, that's a guy who I think could graduate from Laval this season and become a full-time NHLer. But I tend to believe you. I think, and Oliver Kapanen's an odd pick because he did play in Montreal significantly this year and then went back to Laval for the playoff. He played in 3 playoffs this year, one in overseas, one in the NHL, and one in the AHL. So if anyone's got experience, it's him. I kind of like him to make that jump permanently and stay in Montreal.
Yeah. And for me, for Florian, I feel like I've penciled him in, but as a permanent addition next year, not this upcoming season.
Yeah, agreed. I think he remember he was an overager when they picked him. So he's a year further along than most at this point. All right, we'll leave that there. We have way more in our mailbag coming up, and we'll talk about what do you think the prospects for the Montreal Canadiens are thinking right now as they're watching a lot of the draft capital and prospects potentially go flying out the door for deals for help now. And we'll get into that in just a minute on Locked On Canadiens. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you need to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes all of that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantees that take the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we are back into our mailbag here. Let's move to a question here from listener of the show, Charles, who asks, some of the quotes we've heard from Hugo since the end of the season include, we don't want to block our prospects and we're content to start the season with the group we have. In my opinion, the Dobson and Bolduc moves and the rumored Kyrou move put the entire organization of secondary and tertiary forwards and defensemen on notice. Aside from the core of the Habs and on the development side, H, Fowler, and Reinbacher, I'd be getting mentally ready for being trade fodder in upcoming moves. Do you think players like the Xhekaj brothers, Struble, Kapanen, Waugh, Beck, etc., have the mindset of being the best I can to show another team I'm worth it? Or could it be, I've been an important part of the organization for years, and now I'm just an afterthought? They're professionals, but it can't be an easy time right now, and how quickly the Habs seem to be moving into the next phase. I think this is a really important look at what could be going through the minds of these players. And full transparency, I have no idea what they could be thinking. This is not something that translates well to the rest of your, to regular everyday life. I think that all of these guys are built with just such a sense of self-confidence that they think this isn't going to happen to me. I'm going to make the NHL and it's going to be here, and I'm going to be a Montreal Canadian. We're going to win the Stanley Cup while I'm here. I think all of them think that way, which is how they get to this point. So I think that's just how they're wired. Laura, what do you feel after hearing all of that from Charles and sort of setting up what these prospects and younger players might be thinking right now?
I think it's very intriguing, but I think that if you are the type of person to get to that level and you're drafted, right? And I know we have a lot of issues with Theo Fleury now, but I remember reading his book. And I remember just him talking about the difference in mentality between the athletes that make it, like elite athletes that do make it, and the others. And for them, it's never a matter of I can't. It's always a matter of I'm going to the show. I'm going to be good enough to make the NHL. I'm going to win the Stanley Cup, right? So that's always stuck in my mind. And it's been I don't know, maybe 15 years since that book came out. I got it, I read it and I just remember that is one of the things that sticks in my mind. Now, I know we have a lot of issues with him, but I don't doubt that that's the mentality for most athletes that make it to professional levels, right?
Yep.
The best athletes in the world. And even the worst NHLer is better than, the best amateur beer league player, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like you have to have a certain type of mentality and belief in yourself to be able to do that. And I think that there's certain people where, like, I feel like with Lane Hudson, I don't think he thinks about it like that. I think Lane Hudson just thinks about, like, okay, how do I do it? Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get past that guy? How do I make this happen? Right? And that's all he's focused on, is how to be a better version of himself, but not in his mind to, like, break records or anything like that. He just wants to be good at hockey, right? So that's what I think. But you know, I'm sure that there are some players that are maybe potentially worried about the prospect of being traded away. Maybe there's an organization that's much further away in their rebuild or is on the downswing that they might get traded to. So, like, if I'm a prospect, I want to play for the Montreal Canadiens or for Columbus or other teams like that. If the team is too good, then you don't have a chance of cracking the lineup anytime soon. And if the team is not good enough, then it's going to be a while. So, like, if it's a team that's, like, slowly on the upswing, like, I would even say, to be honest, I would say Ottawa too, because even though they have their whole internal cap situation, which I don't think is going to work out very well for them, I do think that in Ottawa you do have a chance, right? Like, you have a chance to be part of something that is on the way up.
Yeah. Completely agree. And I think, there are some prospects who probably feel safer just looking at the depth chart than others. Like, if you're a right shot defenseman, now you probably actually feel pretty safe because they've emptied the cupboard as far as, like, top end right shot defensemen who aren't, who haven't made that jump yet. If you're a center, you probably feel pretty safe. I would say wingers and left shot defensemen, they're probably like, well, I might be expendable at some point in the future, but I don't think you can live your life like that. Like, you just kind of have to admit, like, I'm going to control what I can control, go out there and try to make the decision hard for them. Make it so either I'm the best trade chip they have, or I'm irreplaceable on this team. So it's interesting to think about that either way. All right, let's move to another one here from Jeff the Red. Who would be the best choice to give Dobson and Bolduc an orientation tour of Montreal? Can I suggest maybe Laura Saba? Why don't you do it, Laura?
I'd be happy to be honest. I don't know if I go to the same place hockey players go to. I would say it's been maybe a decade or more since I would run into them, on a regular basis. I don't do that anymore. And I would say, on the team, here's the thing. I think that there's something so like powerful about the fact that Brendan Gallagher got married in Montreal and that Nick Suzuki and Caitlin are getting married in Montreal sometime soon. I don't know when it is, but it's coming, right? Like, I find that there's something so powerful about the pillars of this team not being from here, like adopting the city. And so I feel like they're going to be the people, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be the people that shepherd them. And honestly, like, there's an episode with Caitlin Fitzgerald, now Suzuki, on on That's Upside. That's Offside. I think it's That's Offside. It's the Kat Foley and Julie Petrie's podcast. And there's an episode, and it becomes pretty clear. And I know a couple of other hockey wives and girlfriends have alluded to it. Is that if you're the captain's partner, you're generally the person welcoming everybody, and you're generally the person kind of taking charge of, like, the social events and things like that. There was a period of time that it was Carey Price's wife doing it. Angela Price was doing it, and then Caitlin Fitzgerald took it over. Anyways, I'm just saying, like, those are the people you want, your Brendan Gallaghers and your Nick Suzuki's showing these people around Montreal, because they are also the sensible parents of this team.
Yeah, my answer was Brendan Gallagher because he's been an adopted son of Montreal since he was 20 years old.
Yeah.
His first season in the National Hockey League, he was 20 years old, and he moved to the city, and he hasn't left. He played one game in Laval as, like, a tune-up, which is still funny that him and Price played in Laval at some point. But like that, he was my pick easily, because I just think if there's a guy who you might want a local to help you out, right? Like, you might want somebody who knows the area well, as Sam Montembeau, to show you around. But, like, I feel like Gallagher is going to show them this is what I would have wanted to know when I was 20 years old, coming here for the first time and living here. Like, that I think is most valuable to those guys. Really quick, before we go to our third segment here, I just wanted to bring up a note. This is from Dion Sir, an email we received that asks, 1 second, are you still doing season reviews for the rest of the roster? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We still have Arbor Xhekaj to go, and that's that. He does not require us to bring on a special guest, so we'll do Arbor Xhekaj next week. And then we have special guests for the others. We still need to do Nick Suzuki. We still need to do Caden Gooley. We still need to do all of the goalies. So yes, we are going to do our season reviews of those guys. We have not forgotten. I'm glad that they've made some kind of impact on our listeners and that they want to hear that. So yes, we will be bringing those back. We'll do Arbor Xhekaj next week, and then we are talking to the folks that we need to have them on to do the rest of the shows. All right, let's leave that there. When we come back, we've got some more questions, including whether or not there's been too much expansion, and they're going to 34 teams would be way too much for the National Hockey League. And we'll get into that in just a minute on Locked On Canadiens. All right, we are back. Let's start with this question here from Connor Kenny, who gives us a bit of a throwback to what we saw at the beginning of last year, or should I say 2 years ago, before Doc got hurt in the second game of the year. Doc and Slafkovsky had real chemistry when they first started playing together before Doc's first knee injury. Could we see a scenario where Slafkovsky is tasked with being a line driver to help jumpstart the second line sometime next year? Thanks for the content, and I hope your summer is going well. Thank you, Connor. We appreciate you as well. I hope your summer is going well too. I love the Boy Genius line, the top line of the Canadiens. Statistically, one of the best lines in the league. Just it is. It's play driving numbers, it's possession, it's expected goals. That line is fantastic. You'd be crazy to break it up. However, I think that this is a legitimate desire to have maybe take Juraj Slafkovsky, a guy that you spent a generational pick on, even if he isn't a generational player and there wasn't any available in that draft. You spent the highest pick you possibly can on this player. I think at some point you'd like to see that he can drive a line away from Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield.
Yes.
And I think putting him opposite Ivan Demidov is a pretty sick idea too. Like just putting, if next year let's say they don't get a number 2 center and they don't get a Jordan Kyrou or something like that, it becomes a little bit harder to figure out who fills in on that top line. On the right side. Maybe they put Line A up there and see how that rolls. I think that could be kind of fun. But the idea that you could have Slafkovsky there to, kind of insulate, but also be that guy who can go into the corners and get the puck for Demidov and for Doc and kind of take the pressure off of Doc to be an efficient forechecker. I like it. I liked it when they were in that camp together. They looked really great, which is what made the first Doc knee injury so devastating, because it just seemed like he was right there on the cusp of breaking out with Juraj Slafkovsky. Part of me still thinks the Canadiens, as they've been building this team in their mind, they still see that connection. What about you?
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense to you?
I think so. I think that the only thing is I would not do it in response to like a bad night by Slafkovsky or something like that.
Sure.
I would not make it a demotion. I would experiment for sure. And I think there's nothing wrong with, line blending, especially early in the season. Like people always complain that like October, November is a lot of line blending. I don't have a problem with that. I say this now, but it does become annoying when you're trying to take notes for a podcast. But I will say that I think that there's something to that. And if it doesn't work, just put the Boy Genius line back together again, right? I think it's interesting to keep people guessing too. Like if it works out with Doc and if whoever they put on that Suzuki line is able to keep up, maybe they sacrifice a little bit on that line, but then they balance it out by improving the second line so much.
Yeah. And I like the concept of not treating that as a demotion for Slafkovsky. I kind of would like it if you could see that top line completely just cooking and dominating and the second line needs help.
Yeah.
Marty comes out and says, we think that second line can use some help. Slaf will be incredibly helpful on that line. I think that's less of a demotion and more of we need more from you in this respect. Like we can get more for our team if you're playing here. And I think a player would welcome that. He'd still be on the top power play. Like they wouldn't be touching any of that. But yeah, I don't think it's inevitable that they go back to this, but I wonder how much of it we see in training camp. Like if we see Slafkovsky and Doc next to each other during significant portions of the camp, it would tell me that it's still on the back of their mind, that they want to consider that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's do our expansion question here. This is from a longtime listener of the show, Robert Rice. So I had tried to ignore the rumors of NHL expansion as I had previously written it off as absurd. Now that they seem to be back, Am I the only person who thinks this idea is just going to make the NHL worse? Just take that pool that is NHL level talent and just spread it out too far, creating more middling or bottom tier teams. The league seems to struggle each year just getting good goaltending as it is, let alone the playoff hopeful / wild card chaser teams that scramble each year to find a working top 6 and a respectable top 4 on the back end. It just seems crazy that the 4th most popular pro sports league in North America thinks they can field more teams than the NBA, MLB, or NFL. If those leagues don't think they can sustain it, what makes the NHL special? I think that last part is what does it for me. I agree. Like, I think there's eventually the sport will get to a point where it can sustain that level of talent spread. And maybe like the differences won't be super noticeable early on, but the goaltending aspect of this is so true. There's not 32 starting caliber NHL goalies in the world. There just aren't. Like, we know this because every year some team is starting some guy that you've never heard of and he's getting shelled every night. Like, this happens.
And then some teams get 2 of them, like Boston a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's true too. Where are you at on expansion? Like, is it?
I don't like it.
I 32 is fine. Like, I don't know why we need to go any further than this.
Yes, absolutely. You know what? Even with the 32, like, I think it's like a team in Vegas was exciting and a team in Seattle was fantastic. I just wish they would have moved a team there instead of expanding. I don't like dilution of talent. And I know that now, in the world, it's a lot easier with like all the resources available to people with nutrition and all kinds of even tech, just like tech that like helps you improve yourself, like that people can become better than they are at what they do. I just don't like it. I feel like it dilutes it too much, and I'm happy with things the way they are. In fact, I wasn't. I've come to terms with things the way they are. Just move like you moved Arizona to Utah. Just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, maybe one day they'll put an NHL team in Buffalo. That would be really cool. Speaking of that, Randy asked, what current rumor are you hoping the most that it comes true? For me, it's Buffalo related. I hope they trade Tage Thompson. They are ruining that player. Like, I feel for that guy. I feel like Jack Eichel is just sitting over in Vegas, just watching this and going, I told all of you about this and none of you listened. I think Rasmus Dahlin, get him out of there too. Like, until that, and it sucks. It sucks for the city. It sucks for the fans of that team. But until like they have ownership and management that looks like it cares about winning in any reasonable way, get these guys out of there.
Yeah. Put some talent. So what current rumor I hope is true? It actually did come true. I was really hoping that Mitch Marner would end up somewhere that's very likely to contend for the cup next year, and I'm really hoping that he wins it, like his first season out of Toronto. I don't want Vegas to win another cup, but I just think it'd be really funny.
I don't care about Vegas at all. I don't know why people get so upset when Vegas, like, I just don't. It doesn't nothing
bother you. Yeah.
No, I don't care. I'll say this. Every year when the Stanley Cup is won, I have a moment where the captain gets the cup for the first time and puts it above his head. And I go, man, one day that's going to be us. And I turn the TV off. Like, I get, like, that's as much enjoyment as I get of watching anybody else win the Stanley Cup, but I don't get any angrier. Like, it's Vegas. I don't understand why everybody hates them. It's a team I don't really
get it. I get why people do, but I don't.
Yeah. All right. Last question.
Yeah. Sorry.
From Amelia Pond. This was from a while ago. We thought we talked about it on the air, but we talked about it off the air, and we had such a fun time with it that we figured we were recording, and I guess we weren't. Mailbag question: recast this oldie but goodie with the current team, and it is a link to the Club 1909 Montreal Canadiens Jay Baruchel commercial where he interrupts Brendan Gallagher while he is taking a shower. I mean, I guess you don't have to recast Gallagher, but you can't recast Jay Baruchel because he is a gem and a national treasure. I wouldn't dream of it, although if you were going to make a new series of these commercials, I think it would be very funny to do them with Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave. I think he's not a Habs fan or anything, but I feel like that would be very really much funny. Along the line of humor that has adapted since then. Who are you putting in this situation that is in this very infamous commercial?
Okay, so there's 3 commercials, okay, that I remember. There's actually, I think, 4. So the first commercial is Jay Baruchel, like, sneaking up on Brendan Gallagher in the shower and then, like, handing him, like, a sponge or something.
Yes.
The other one is him watching Carey Price sleep. And then there's another one with Max Pacioretty. So he shows up out of Max Pacioretty's hockey bag and like tries to offer him a smoothie. And then there's one with like a painting that I like. He's like staring through a painting at like the Canadiens locker room with like David Darnay or something. I can't remember like that one. But anyways, so if I wanted to recast all of those, the person that he is watching sleep is going to be Alex Carrier, because how handsome.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. The shower one is Arbor Xhekaj, just because it'd be really funny. And then the smoothie guy, that's Caden Cooley.
Yeah, I also think it would be funny if Xhekaj was the one who was sleeping and he's like sleeping with a stuffed Yuppie. Like, I think that would be really funny to see.
Yeah.
Man, they really should bring commercials like this back. They should start doing this again. Do you remember like when they had, when Jeff Petrie was selling a signature hamburger at a certain fast food chain in Montreal? I always thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I think it's time to bring these back. I know you have to know Jay Baruchel would be down for this.
Yeah,
like he'd be 100%. Totally down to do these again, and that would be really great.
Yeah, we absolutely love Jay on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's leave that there. Thank you for all your questions for the mailbag. It was really helpful. We love to hear what you guys have to say. Not only do you ask great questions, but you also put a little bit of yourselves into each of these, and we kind of get to understand our audience a little bit better. So thank you as always for sending those in. It makes these Friday shows not feel like we're doing any real work. We're just having fun with you guys. So thank you for sending those in. All right, let's do our trivia. Yesterday's question. Former Hamilton Bulldog Nick Tarnasky is in the news after getting in a fight with a drunken golfer out on the course. I recently saw someone had drawn like a watercolor picture of the fight that happened on the course. I found it on Reddit. I thought that was phenomenal. So this has taken on a life of its own. Nick Tarnasky's last NHL goal came on February 3rd, 2010 against Boston. Actually, someone did correct me. It wasn't February 3rd. It was February 13th. So thank you to Curtis Martin for correcting me. Which former Montreal Canadian also scored in that game? Laura, do you have the answer to this one?
Yes, the answer is Mark Recchi.
Yes, and as Jason Lip calls him, Dr. Mark Recchi, MD, obviously for his comments about Max Pacioretty, which in thinking about it again, I can't believe he didn't get absolutely pummeled the next time Montreal played Boston for that. I feel like that is an incredible indictment on either that Canadiens team or what that Canadiens team thought about Max Pacioretty. Like I kind of look back at it like they should have absolutely ripped that guy apart. Because think of it the other way. If it was Boston, they would have destroyed whoever said that. Yes, it is Mark Recchi. Manny got the answer right and did send us some lovely photos of his children in Habs gear. So thank you for that. It's always lovely to see that. Sue Feeder, Jason Lib, Curtis Martin, who corrected me on the date, and Super Rain, all getting the answer correct. So thank you for playing as always. We appreciate it, and we love shouting you guys out for how smart you are. All right, today's question is about Mark Recchi. When Montreal acquired Mark Recchi in the middle of the 94-95 season, and when they got him, the Habs went winless in his first 4 games. I think a couple losses and a couple ties because he tied back then. In his 5th game, he scored 2 goals, and the Habs beat the Rangers 5-2. He was not the only Mark to score that game for the Montreal Canadiens. Which Mark completed the Mark hat trick in that game against the New York Rangers in 1995? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below. Let us know how smart you are, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. And that's going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you so much for tuning in and for making us your first listen of the day. Every day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. As a reminder, we're going down to 3 shows a week next week, and we'll be back up to 5 at some point later in the summer, early into the fall. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most. The local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL, Locked On NHL on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We are Locked On Canadiens everywhere. We are posting things, Bluesky, Instagram, and TikTok primarily. Check us out in all of those places for some fun content that we'll be posting throughout the summer. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the weekend. We'll be back next week. See ya.